This is a Gateway City Sports Special.
You may fire when ready.
What? All right, my old friend I guess we've collaborated together at various points in time, but you know him as Triceratops out there on Twitter. He's joining me tonight to talk about a subject that I think both of us have been dying to talk about, especially me, all the way out here in North Carolina. There's not a lot of St. Louis fans or regional fans of the Midwest really to talk to about sports that you have anything in common with. I got two Cubs fans that lived across the street. Two houses next to each other. Both Chicago guys, which the Bears we can kind of relate to. In regards to baseball, they hate me. I hate them. We probably vote differently and everything else too. And that's fine. But my two favorites, well, I guess my favorite sport, I don't have anybody locally. That's why I do this podcasting thing. I think that's why I've done it for many years. And that's how I've kind of met you. But I also know that once St. Louis was awarded an MLS team, I heard you a lot on Twitter, and leading up to the season, then you're probably the guy that I follow that I see the most tweeting about MLS in St. Louis City SC. So inaugural season, just tell me let me step back a little farther. How have you been a soccer fan your entire life, and what leagues have you followed?
Yeah, I've been a soccer fan pretty much my entire life. It's an interesting background, right? And when I grew up in Puerto Rico, soccer wasn't a huge thing. I moved to the United States when I was a baby, and so I played soccer when I was starting at like essentially 4 years old, and I played it in high school as well. But there was a transition period where we moved back to Puerto Rico, and soccer wasn't a huge thing there, and which is, I'm sure finds a little bit surprising because of the, the Latin American influence, soccer has. But it just really wasn't a thing. Puerto Rico was very baseball heavy, obviously, and actually surprisingly basketball heavy. So soccer, it isn't a big thing. It still isn't a big thing in Puerto Rico. And so, my love for the game really just came from, being in the United States and playing soccer, locally here, where I live now and just in the St. Louis region. But I would say I've been a soccer fan my entire life, and it's a game where you have to be patient. But when the play is just magical, it gets a hold of you, and there's just something beautiful about it, and that's why they call it the beautiful game, right? As far as what leagues I follow, English Premier League. I'm in a fantasy league with a couple guys, or pretty much like 8-10 guys. So that's a league I follow very heavily. I follow La Liga because my favorite team is Barcelona. Mainly because of Lionel Messi, and I can't wait to talk about that.
That's one of the elephants sitting in the room right here. So we're going to get to that definitely.
Yeah. And then a little bit of the Italian league as well. So a lot of major European leagues. Obviously, I follow the Champions League and the Europa League. The bigger tournaments in Europe. And then obviously now with St. Louis getting a team in MLS. My shift has focused very heavily on MLS as well. And to be honest, I really wasn't a huge MLS fan. And that comes as virtue of not having a team in St. Louis. So I don't have a rooting interest for really much, anybody else. So, my MLS fanhood now is just on the advent of St. Louis City, which, I'm sure a lot of people are going to find themselves in that category.
You're looking at one, like literally through the screen. Yeah.
I'm not surprised, and I'm sure there's thousands of others that just didn't really care about the MLS, but, as you know, St. Louis is a soccer hotbed. So whether you were following MLS and you were following Sporting Kansas City or Chicago Fire or any more, regional teams, it's just the love of the game just kind of holds it all together. And I think you see that, every time you see pictures of City Park, it's just an amazing experience.
I want to ask you about that. And just a little of my background, this may or may not surprise you, I'm not sure, but where I grew up, just a couple hours, I guess, east of St. Louis in central Illinois, smaller high school, we never had soccer. We never had rec leagues that were young growing up. It just wasn't in the culture. So soccer was very unfamiliar to me. And whenever you did see a score, it was 1-0 or 2-0. And in your mind, you're like, well, how exciting can that be? Right. I don't understand it. I really didn't, of course, as I grew older, understood sports better. And of course I follow hockey and used to follow basketball a lot. And the way the game flows at times can be similar. You're similar to the style of defense and the way the puck moves around in hockey and the schemes and everything. So soccer was never that difficult to follow. And of course, every time the U.S. would advance in the World Cup, I'd be watching those rounds, but not interested, cheering, but not like passionate about it ever. When St. Louis was awarded this franchise in 2020, right, during the time of COVID, we're all kind of like stuck at home and we're still kind of like pissed about the Rams leaving and all of that other stuff, right? And it was the first win I remember really for the city in a long time. Was getting that franchise. And so I said at that point, I went on the store, I bought the shirt. It's already faded. You can't even see the logo anymore, but I've been wearing it for 3 years. And then, see the progress of the park being made and reading a lot, not understanding it all, but reading a lot about how they're building the team, who they're bringing in. And when that first game, I sat there and watched that first game against Austin FC, free. I think it was free on MLS Pass was free on Apple at that point. I'm like, I'm going to try this out. Right. I'm going to buy this for a month, but I'm going to try out the free one tonight and see how this goes. I have not missed a minute of any match. The only one, I take that back. That's a bold-faced lie. I just said it right here. We're not even like 10 minutes in. I did miss the Chicago game because my boys were playing baseball and I coached them. And I wonder what the hell they were doing playing at 1:00 on a Saturday. But
I agree with that one.
Yeah, and they do it again this Saturday, which I'm scratching my head over. But my wife and I watch it together, Tito, and we don't watch baseball together that often. And so it's been a really cool thing. And yes, it's regional, and I'm from that area. I'm from the St. Louis region. And once it became their thing, I became a fan. And so I think it's been a great thing. I cannot wait to attend a game there. And that's a segue I wanted to ask you about. I'm assuming you have gone.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be at least 3 games that I can remember, with potentially, a 4th and 5th on the way here. I will say this, it has surpassed any expectation I've had of it by a million miles. I mean, we're talking way beyond any expectation. And I would venture, beyond the ownership's expectations. Obviously, it helps when the team is doing well.
Sure.
And you support of, a winning team, unlike our friends down Market Street. But when you step into City Park, it is an experience unlike anything I have seen before. I mean, we're talking 22,000, 22,500, all tightly packed into this one arena. And it is, and I'm not kidding when I say this, and you can see it on TV, nobody sits. Nobody sits. If you're in the lower bowl, nobody is sitting. And that's because sometimes that's a long time to stand for, but everybody is watching every single second of that ball move. And you just feel the passion, the drum beats of the St. Louligans and the other supporter groups and the cheering section. You can just feel every ounce of passion that everybody's watching that game. And when the crowd is into it and is behind the team, it's just an amazing feeling. The park is beautiful itself. It really is a state-of-the-art complex. The food is fantastic there as well. So, if you're a foodie and you want some good local food, and which I think is a unique thing that they do, is all of it is local food, local restaurants, so local ownership, local business. I think that's a great thing that they did with this stadium. It's all great. I mean, just, every time, I watch on TV and I just see the crowd, it's all city red. There's no like, Cardinal shirt jerseys or anything like that in there. Everybody is behind right now, which makes it just that much more special. I mean, it really is a fun atmosphere. I was able to attend the first home game with a very, very close friend of mine. He was my best man in my wedding. And I looked at him and after the game was over, I said, I'll never forget this moment. It was just so magical. And, it helped that they won that game, but they won it in convincing fashion too. So it's just a magical experience. And I truly hope, anybody who gets an opportunity to go can go. But as I'm sure Ron, tickets are not cheap, man.
No, they're not.
They're very expensive right now. And I can't say that's a bad thing, because the more that they sell tickets, the more that the team spent, the more that tickets sell, the more purchasing power the team will have to get better players along the way. That's just how these things work. I just don't think, as I said earlier, that the team expected this kind of success and this fervor of the crowd base to want to go. I mean, the home opener just alone for the one ticket was $275 a piece. And obviously that's a lot, but this is a once in a lifetime thing. But every week it's $100 to $150 just to go.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying. My son just graduated high school about 3 weeks ago, and I was back home and took him to a Cardinals game, but City was playing at home that night, and we were looking at both. Now, my son does have a disability where he can stand, he just can't stand for an extended period of time, and I did tell him, I go, hey buddy, they stand like literally the whole time at this game, and he was like, let's just we'll go to the Cardinals game. So I will make my way there because I see what you're describing. I see it when they do play home games, and I'm very anxious to check out a game there.
It's an experience, like I said, an experience unlike anything I've really seen before. I went to, I was fortunate also to go when Real Madrid came to St. Louis and played Inter Milan. Oh gosh, I want to say it was almost like 10-ish years ago. And Ronaldo was in town with Real Madrid. And that was at the Rams Dome. And that was crazy then too. But this is just something different. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of Enterprise Center with the Blues. Yeah. It's a very close, tight arena. The crowd noise is on top of you if you're on the field or you're in the rink. And I got to be honest, I watch baseball. I watch baseball, but I don't miss the City match. I can sit there and check out the Cardinals game on my phone. I don't miss a City match. I just don't.
I'm with you. I've got, during COVID, I did put a home theater in my garage. So I've got this big 120-inch projector screen in there, and I've got my old 65-inch TV that's on the adjacent wall. And I tell you, when City and the Cardinals are both playing at the same time, City is on the big one. The Cardinals are on the small one with the sound off. So I'm right there with you, man. That's how I've been doing it.
Yeah, and obviously, if the Cardinals
which is nuts. If you would have talked to me 5 years ago, Ron, you're going to have soccer, football. I'm converting. You're going to have that on your main screen. You're going to have the Cardinals off to the side. I would have been like, bullshit. That's never going to happen. And it has.
Well, and my dad and I, when my dad and I talked about this, we thought that the City would definitely give the Blues the run for their money in terms of popularity, just because they're so close together. The impact in the region that they would have on one another would be very close. I mean, Union Station is the only thing that separates Enterprise Center from City Park.
Yeah.
That's barely a block and a half. They share the same parking lots a lot of the time. So there's going to be some competition when this thing really gets going. I mean, can you imagine in September, October, when City's still playing, potentially some home playoff games while the Blues are playing at Enterprise Center? That's a lot of people in that one little tiny area, and there's going to be some competition. But I could never have expected that the soccer team was going to hold as much popularity to the point where I'm also like at the point where it's like, you know, the Cardinals are doing what they're doing. I'm watching City.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I played the 40-minute game against Dallas. I could have easily stopped I could have kept doing what I was doing and just moved along. But no, I stopped and I watched 40 minutes of soccer just because I wanted to watch.
Yep, I did it last night. My wife was disappointed because she hadn't been paying attention to the fact that this was going to start in the 50th minute. And she looked up and she's like, what happened? Why is it over? And I'm like, well, it was, you know, I explained it. And yeah, it's really great. I mean, and there are going to be times too when all four teams are playing at the same time too, which is different. You know, hey, St. Louis can only support two major sports, right? That's what we've been hearing forever. And well, that's bullshit. We all know that. But
I think it just speaks to the, in my opinion, it speaks to the kind of ownership that St. Louis City has.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that, and yes, I'm going to knock on the Rams because it's just the facts.
Yeah.
If you have an ownership that actually gives a shit about what you do in the city, what kind of product you put out on the field, of course people are going to pay to go see it.
Right.
That's how this thing works. That is the machine
that's how it works damn near everywhere but Chicago, where they could be in last place. You're going to be trashed out there in the bleachers. I want to ask you though about the ownership group, since you mentioned them.
Mm-hmm.
Could they have done any better of a job, like in almost any facet of getting this franchise going? I mean, I'm sitting here trying to think all the way down to their team colors, to their logo and everything. To the coach they brought in and the system that he brought with him and the players they brought in to support that strategy. I don't know that they could have done anything better.
Well, and no, I don't think they could have either. I think, I'll say it again, a lot of it has to do with the team's success. I think that is overwhelmingly adds to the positive environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also starts with the ownership in terms of getting the right coach, as you said, getting the right director of football in. He has to pick the right coach for his system or how he wants to develop a team. Mm-hmm. And that coach has to work with the sporting director to draft players, acquire players that fit the model. And you know, if you watch games at times, the team looks a little discombobulated. It's not pretty. It's not always 100% gelled together. And that's okay. It is what it is. But more often than not, the team plays very well together because everybody buys into the system. And that's what the coach looks for in players. It's not because of their technical ability. All of them can play. It's very evident that all of them can play at a very high level. But you have to have players that are willing to buy into the kind of system that they're putting together.
Imagine if baseball ran that same way down the street, right?
Yeah, and you know.
Sorry, I didn't want to piss you off for the night.
No,
like you were.
You know what? It makes complete sense, right? It's called team chemistry for a reason, right? You get players that buy into the system that say, okay, this is the goal. This is how we're going to play. Now I have to adapt my style to that because I guarantee you, a guy like Celio Pompeu, right? He's not necessarily a starter,
mm-hmm.
but if you watch the last few games, he's really shown his technical ability. He can play.
Yeah, I think he has gotten better. The first few times I saw him was a little bit rough, right? But he's out there for the first few times. But I agree. The last couple of matches, he's looked a lot better, a lot more comfortable with that group out on the field.
And I think that's a good word to put it. He feels more comfortable in the system that he's getting used to.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes to tell me, and as I was saying, not all these players know how to play a pressing style or, you know, care about playing a pressing style because it doesn't suit them as a player. It doesn't suit their skills, but they're buying into the fact that, look, we're not changing. We're not going to be anybody else but who we are right in this moment. And that's a hard thing to find. I mean, we see it, with the Cardinals right now. A lot of people on Twitter are up in arms because every time we see a video, nobody's cheering for the next guy, or it looks like everybody just wants to shoot themselves. And
the base running gaff earlier this week screams to me what you're talking about. What's working for City when you have runners on first and second, they almost collide at second base. It's like these guys have never played before, and then another runner takes off and occupies third. The other guy gets caught in a rundown at home plate. That's the kind of thing that I expect to see from my son's 12U team,
right?
But not from a Major League Baseball team. And how the mighty have fallen, like number one in that category in the last 3 or 4 years, and they've fallen off quick just with the fundamentals. So,
and you can, and I know there's a lot of chatter with the manager and et cetera, and getting his players pumped up and whatnot. And I'll say this, right? Yes, you do have to have a manager that does do all that stuff, does the rah-rah, does the hard talks when he needs to, and goes in front of the media and says what he has to say. But at the end of the day, he's not the one playing the game. I'm sorry. He's not the one going out there and running the bases or kicking the ball or doing all this stuff. That is on the player. And if the player is not mentally prepared, then the player needs to reevaluate how they get ready to play the game. And they're the professionals, not me, not you, right? They're the ones that are making the millions of dollars. And we as fans have to endure their torture or their success. But it goes to show you, yes, team chemistry is a real thing, man.
It's a huge deal, man. It is. And you made a couple great points there, and the guys that'll accept roles. Some of the better Cardinals teams I remember were players that they plugged in, like Mark Grudzielanek, that he was a role player. He wasn't counted on to be a centerpiece of the team, but he was a role player. Tony Momack was a role player. Those guys that, no, we're not expecting them to be on the all-star ballot or to get MVP votes, but they know the role within the team and they function together really well. And that's what we're not seeing down the street. But getting back to soccer real quick. So we got a few minutes left, but I got to get your opinion on this one because I know you were dying to say something about it. MLS got a boost, right? They got a celebrity boost, big time, right? Not since when Beckham came over, right? But I think this was even bigger, to be honest with you. So
by far.
What's your opinion now? Messi's going to join MLS now. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to make the City game on July 15th. It might be a week later, so you might want to sit on your seat geek notifications, whatever you got for that game. But he is going to be joining Inter Miami. They're not doing well, but that's probably a really good market for him. But what do you think this does for the entire league?
I can't see it being anything other than positive and an overwhelming success. Look, you're talking about arguably, and in my opinion, the greatest soccer player of all time. He is that caliber. When you bring that caliber of talent, yes, he is 35. I understand that, but he's not dead.
No, he's not.
So yeah, he's going to play at a high level, and he's bringing a high level of experience to the MLS that has not been seen on a scale, probably like you said, David Beckham style. Most recently, Zlatan Ibrahimovic when he went to LA Galaxy, Gareth Bale when he went to LAFC last year. Those are great names. Don't get me wrong; they're great players. But this is Leo Messi. There's only one other player on the planet that could probably rival the arrival of Leo Messi, and that's Cristiano Ronaldo. But this is like I said, this is arguably the greatest soccer player to have ever played, coming to the United States to play professional soccer at its highest level in the United States. And you can already see what it has done. Charlotte FC, that home game they have against Inter Miami, 10,000 tickets sold within 24 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And you know what? Here's the thing that's going to I just turned down tickets for that particular game that my company out here. I shit you not. It happened last week, and I remember the date. They had several dates. It wasn't just that game; it was several. I didn't know this was coming. I wasn't connecting the dots on this one, but yes, I could have probably easily gotten 2 to 4 seats to that game for absolutely nothing.
Wow, boy,
yeah, idiot. They don't call me idiot for nothing around this house. But hey, man,
I mean, 10,000 tickets for Charlotte.
Yeah.
All of Inter Miami's home games sold out. Chicago Fire, they play, Inter Miami goes to Chicago on October 4th, which is a Wednesday at 7:30. 7,000 tickets sold for that game. All of the Inter Miami away games are being sold out across all of the places that they're going to.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what happens.
Oh, right? They had to pool their money together to help this guy get this guy over here for Miami. But
and even in St. Louis, you know, I tweeted it out fervently over the last few days. Right, general admission the day that he was announced in the morning. General admission for that game alone was $174, including fees for one ticket. In general admission, by the time he was announced, it was all the way up to $264. And everywhere around it was up $100 to $200. Yeah. Lower Bowl itself was around $300 to $400 just for one ticket. I mean, look, that's what one player can do.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible.
And to put it even to more perspective, right? It's not just Leo Messi. Inter Miami also is connected with Angel Di Maria, who is Leo Messi's teammate in Argentina. So you're possibly bringing another World Cup winner to Inter Miami, which will sell even more tickets. And then you're adding on potentially Sergio Busquets, who was a former teammate of Leo Messi in Barcelona. So now you're getting all these, you know, yes, towards the end of their career, La Liga stars, Angel Di Maria, he played in Real Madrid, and now he most recently played for PSG. He might be coming over. And now St. Louis City is connected to a Liverpool, he will be a former Liverpool player, but he's very, he's still in his, young 30s, Roberto Firmino. He's connected to St. Louis City. So right now, what I think may happen is if Leo Messi is good enough, or if the MLS is good enough for Leo Messi,
open the gate up a little bit, right?
European star won't come over to MLS, and we might start seeing some really, really heavy infused European talent into the game. And I mean, St. Louis City is no joke either, because they practically half their team is from the German league. You've got Edward Leuven, who has been their best player by far.
Yeah.
He was from German league. João Klaus is from the German league. You've got a lot of heavy
Berkey, the goalie, was from the German league too, right? So, yeah, there you go.
Borussia Dortmund, right? So, you're getting an influx of a lot of European talent, and this is just one name that will infuse a whole heck of a lot of money and a whole heck of a lot of talent into MLS. And I would give a lot to watch him play. My buddy ended up buying 2 tickets to Chicago, so I'm thinking long and hard about that one. It's just a Wednesday in Chicago is a pretty tough tale. But I mean, Messi, after winning the World Cup, solidified his GOAT status to me. And the fact that he's going to be playing in MLS, and you can watch it on Apple TV, and who knows, if at some point, there's another expansion team that comes in, St. Louis might get kicked over to the Eastern Conference, and all of a sudden we may have a home and away with Messi in the next 2.5 years.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Well, Tito, I could have done this for an hour. Maybe I should have scheduled it for an hour, but you have to jump. But, this is, you guys know him as at Triceratops out there on Twitter. I think your name on there is Tweedo, right? Like that's the handle name. So
that was the new moniker my friend came up with, and I said, let's run with it.
Well, hey man, we absolutely 100% have to do this again. This has been great. I would love to talk about this stuff more. So as the season, as everything picks back up, we'll schedule some more time to do this, man. This has been great, and it's been great catching up with you too. So take care, man, and until next time,
okay.
We'll talk to you later, bud.
Okay, thanks,
all right, man. See ya.